Maya Rodriguez pressed her face against the small window as the transport ship approached the massive space station. She had never seen anything so big in her life. The Galactic Unity Station stretched for miles in every direction. Its silver, walls reflecting the light from distant stars. Hundreds of ships from different worlds moved around it like busy insects. Her stomach felt tight with nervous energy. Maya was 17 years old and had never been away from Earth before. Now she was about to spend 6 months living with aliens from across the galaxy. She touched the small cross necklace her grandmother had given her and whispered a quick prayer. The transport docked with a soft thump that she felt through the floor. Maya grabbed her single bag and followed the other passengers toward the exit. Most of them were not human. She saw tall blue beings with 4 arms, small furry creatures that walked on their back legs, and others that looked like walking trees. They all seemed to know where they were going, while Maya felt completely lost. A voice spoke over the speaker system in perfect English. "Welcome to Galactic Unity Station. Human passengers, please report to Docking Bay 12 for orientation." Maya followed the signs through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The station was clean and bright, but everything was built for beings much larger than humans. The doorways were 10 feet tall and the hallways were wide enough for several people to walk side by side. She felt like a child in a world made for giants. At Docking Bay 12, she found about 20 other human students waiting with their bags. Most looked as nervous as she felt. A tall woman with short gray hair stood at the front of the group wearing a blue uniform with Earth symbols on it. "Welcome to your new home for the next 6 months," the woman said with a smile. "I am Commander Lisa Grant, your human liaison here at the station. You are the first group of Earth students to attend the Interspecies Academy, so you are making history." Maya felt a mix of pride and fear. Making history sounded important, but it also meant nobody knew what to expect. Commander Grant continued talking. "The Academy has students from 47 different worlds. You will live in the dormitories, attend classes together, and learn about each other's cultures. Remember, you represent all of humanity here. Your actions will shape how other species view our entire planet." That made Maya's stomach feel even tighter. She had grown up in a small town in Arizona, where the biggest responsibility she had was helping her uncle fix cars at his garage. Now, she was supposed to represent 3 billion people. After orientation, Maya followed the directions to her dormitory room. The corridors were full of alien students moving between classes. Most of them were much taller than humans, and many had natural armor, claws, or other features that made them look dangerous. Maya tried not to stare, but it was hard not to notice how small and weak humans looked compared to everyone else. Her room was on the 15th floor. When the door slid open, she saw that she was not alone. A being that looked like it was made of blue crystal sat on one of the beds reading from a glowing tablet. It looked up when Maya entered. "You must be my new roommate," the crystal being said in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. "I am Zara from the Alterian system. You are Maya from Earth, correct?" Maya nodded, surprised that Zara knew her name. "How did you know?" "I requested a human roommate," Zara explained. "I am very interested in your species. We have heard many stories about Earth, but most of them seem impossible to believe." "What kind of stories?" Maya asked as she set her bag on the empty bed. Zara's crystal body seemed to glow brighter. "That humans live on a world with extreme gravity and weather, that you have no natural armor or weapons, yet you became the dominant species, that you fight wars with weapons that can destroy entire cities. It sounds like fantasy." Maya was not sure how to respond to that. Earth seemed normal to her because it was all she knew. I guess it is all true, but it does not feel extreme when you live there. Over the next few days, Maya tried to settle into her new routine. The classes were interesting but challenging. She learned about the history of the Galactic Council, the different species that belonged to it, and the complex politics of space. The teachers were patient with human students, but Maya could tell that some of the alien students thought humans were not very smart. The biggest problem was not the classes or the strange food or even being so far from home. The problem was Thrakvos. Maya first saw him on her 3rd day at the academy. She was walking to lunch when the corridor ahead of her suddenly became quiet. Other students moved to the sides of the hallway. creating a clear path down the middle. Then she saw why. Thrakvos was the biggest being she had ever seen. He stood at least 8 feet tall and was covered in thick, dark armor that looked like it was part of his body. His arms were longer than Maya was tall, and each hand ended in claws that could probably tear through metal. His head was shaped like a triangle with small red eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. He was a Coraxian, one of the warrior species that Zara had told her about. According to Zara, Coraxians believed that strength was the most important thing in the universe. They respected power and had no patience for weakness. Thrakvos walked down the middle of the corridor like he owned it. Other students pressed themselves against the walls to get out of his way. Even the tall, strong-looking aliens seemed afraid of him. Maya tried to step aside like everyone else, but she was not fast enough. Thrakvos stopped directly in front of her. He looked down at Maya like she was an insect he was thinking about stepping on. When he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "You are one of the new humans," he said. It was not a question. Maya looked up at him and tried to keep her voice steady. "Yes, I am Maya Rodriguez from Earth." Thrakvos made a sound that might have been laughter. "Earth, the weak world with weak creatures. I have heard about your kind. You have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. How did you even survive long enough to reach the stars?" Other students were watching now. Maya could feel dozens of eyes on her, waiting to see what she would do. She thought about her grandfather, who had always told her to be polite but never to show fear to bullies. "We survived the same way everyone else did," Maya said calmly. "We learned, we adapted, and we worked together." Thrakvos leaned down so his face was closer to hers. She could smell something like sulfur on his breath. "Working together will not help you here, little human. This is not your weak world. Here only the strong survive." He straightened up and continued walking down the corridor. The other students slowly went back to what they were doing, but Maya noticed that several of them looked at her with what might have been pity. Maya continued to the dining hall, but her appetite was gone. She sat with Jake Collins, another human, student from her orientation group. Jake had seen what happened in the corridor. "That guy is bad news," Jake said quietly. "I heard from some of the other students that he has made trouble for anyone he thinks is weak. The teachers know about it, but they say it is just Coraxian culture." Maya picked at her food. "What kind of trouble?" "Nothing violent," Jake said. "The station has strict rules about fighting between students, but he finds other ways to make life difficult. Blocking paths, destroying homework, making threats. The alien students are all afraid of him." Maya thought about Thrakvos and his red eyes. She had dealt with bullies before, but never one who was 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor. For the first time since arriving at the station, she wondered if she had made a mistake coming here. That night, as she lay in her bed listening to Zara's crystal body humming softly in sleep, Maya stared out the small window at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, billions of miles away. She thought about her family, her uncle's garage, and the small town where everyone knew her name. She had been so excited to represent humanity among the stars. Now she was beginning to understand that the universe was a much more dangerous place than she had imagined. Maya thought her first meeting with Thrakvos would be the end of it. She was wrong. Over the next 2 weeks, the massive Coraxian seemed to appear everywhere she went. It started small. Maya would be walking to class and find her path blocked by Thrakvos standing in the middle of the corridor. He would not move until she went around him, forcing her to press against the wall like all the other students did. When she sat down in the library to study, he would walk past her table and accidentally bump it hard enough to make her books and tablets fall to the floor. Maya tried to ignore it. She picked up her things without complaining and found new ways to get to her classes. But Thrakvos seemed to enjoy the game he was playing. Each day he found new ways to make her life difficult. During her 3rd week at the academy, Maya was carrying her dinner tray across the dining hall when Thrakvos stepped directly into her path. She tried to go around him, but he moved to block her again. This time he was not content to just make her wait. "What is that earth food?" Thrakvos asked loudly, pointing at her tray. "It looks as weak as the creature carrying it." Other students at nearby tables stopped eating to watch. Maya could feel her face getting hot, but she kept her voice calm. "It is just dinner. May I please get past?" Thrakvos made that grinding sound that passed for laughter. "Please? Humans say please to everyone, do they not? On my world, we take what we want. We do not ask for permission." He reached out with one massive clawed hand and knocked the tray from Maya's grip. Food and drink splashed across the floor and onto Maya's clothes. The dining hall became completely quiet. Everyone was staring at them now. Maya looked down at the mess on the floor, then up at Thrakvos. That was not necessary. Necessary? Thrakvos leaned down toward her. "Nothing about humans is necessary. Your species is a mistake that should have been corrected long ago." Maya felt anger building in her chest, but she also felt something else. Fear. Not of Thrakvos exactly, but of what she might do if he kept pushing her. She had learned to control her temper over the years, but everyone had limits. She turned and walked away without saying another word. Behind her, she heard Thrakvos talking to his friends in the Caraxian language. Even without understanding the words, she could tell they were laughing at her. Jake found her in her room an hour later, sitting on her bed with her knees pulled up to her chest. Zara was at her evening meditation, so they were alone. "I heard what happened in the dining hall," Jake said. "This has gone too far. You need to report him to the teachers." Maya shook her head. "And tell them what? That he knocked over my dinner? They will say it was an accident. Everyone saw what really happened. Everyone saw a big alien bump into a small human," Maya said. "That happens all the time here. The aliens do not mean to hurt us, we are just so much smaller than them." Jake sat down on Zara's bed. "You do not really believe that?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. "No, I do not. But what else can I do? If I complain to the teachers, it will just make things worse. Bullies always make things worse when adults get involved." "So, you are just going to let him keep doing this?" Maya looked out the window at the stars. "My grandfather used to tell me stories about bullies he faced when he was young. He said the only way to deal with them was to stand up to them, but he also said you had to pick your battles carefully." "What does that mean?" Maya was not sure she could explain it in a way that Jake would understand. Her grandfather had taught her many things about fighting and survival, but those lessons came from a different world. A world where humans were the strongest, fastest, most dangerous creatures around. Here, surrounded by beings with natural armor and claws and strength that made human athletes look like children, those lessons felt useless. The next morning brought a new problem. Maya went to her first class to find that her homework tablet had been broken. The screen was cracked and the device would not turn on. She had spent hours working on an assignment about galactic trade routes that was due that day. Professor Zelmora, a peaceful being that looked like a walking flower, was understanding but could not give Maya extra time to redo the work. Without the assignment, Maya would fail the class for the week. Maya knew who had broken her tablet, but she could not prove it. The dormitory security cameras showed nothing unusual. Someone had been very careful about not being seen. 2 days later, it happened again. This time it was her language translation device that stopped working right before an important test. Maya had to take the exam without being able to understand half of the questions, which were written in standard Galactic instead of English. Jake was getting angry, even if Maya was trying to stay calm. "He is sabotaging you. This is not just bullying anymore. This is trying to make you fail out of the academy." Maya had thought the same thing. If she failed too many classes, she would be sent back to Earth in disgrace. The first human exchange student, kicked out for not being good. Enough! It would probably end the entire program. The breaking point came during zero-gravity engineering class. The lesson was taking place in a large chamber where the artificial gravity could be turned off. Students were supposed to work in teams to build simple machines while floating in space. Maya was partnered with 2 other students, a small friendly creature called Pip, and a tall, thin being named Vel, who rarely spoke. They were working well together, building a basic motor system according to the lesson plan. The chamber was crowded with floating students and equipment. It was easy to bump into things by accident when you were not used to moving without gravity. Maya was concentrating on connecting two wire systems when something hard slammed into her back. The impact sent her spinning through the air toward the far wall of the chamber. Maya threw her hands out to protect herself, but she hit the metal wall hard enough to make her ears ring. Pain shot through her left wrist and the side of her head. When she managed to get turned around, she saw Thrakvos floating nearby. He was much better at moving in zero gravity than most students, probably because Caraxians were naturally strong enough to push themselves around easily. "Clumsy human," Thrakvos said loudly. "You should learn to watch where you are going in zero gravity." Professor Gelthorn, a being that looked like a huge jellyfish, floated over to check on Maya. "Are you injured, young Rodriguez?" Maya's head was throbbing, and her wrist felt like it might be sprained, but she did not want to make a scene. "I am fine, Professor. Just bumped into the wall." Professor Gelthorn's tentacles glowed with concern. "Perhaps you should visit the medical bay to be certain." Maya started to say she was fine again, but then her vision went a little blurry. She realized she might actually be hurt worse than she thought. The medical bay was on level 7 of the station. The doctor was a being that looked like a cross between a spider and a snake, but she was gentle and kind. Her scanners showed that Maya had a mild concussion and a sprained wrist. "The injuries are not serious," Dr. Seskala said in a hissing voice that somehow sounded reassuring. "Our healing technology will repair the damage quickly, but you must rest for today." Maya lay on the medical bed while healing rays worked on her injuries. The physical pain was already getting better, but the emotional hurt was getting worse. She felt helpless and alone, millions of miles from anyone who could really help her. When Jake came to visit her that afternoon, he found Maya staring at the ceiling with tears in her eyes. "I am thinking about going home," Maya said without looking at him. Jake pulled a chair over to her bed. "You cannot let him win." "Maybe he already has," Maya said. "Maybe humans do not belong here. Maybe we really are too weak for this." "You do not believe that?" Maya finally looked at him. "What if I do? What if everything Thrakvos is saying is true? Look at me, Jake. I am lying in a medical bed because an alien student pushed me into a wall. How is that representing humanity well?" Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised her. "You know, you never talk about your family back home. I mean, you mention your grandfather sometimes, but you never say what your parents do for work." Maya felt something twist in her stomach. "Why does that matter?" "I'm just curious. My dad is an accountant and my mom teaches school. What about yours?" Maya looked back at the ceiling. "My father works for the government. My mother is a nurse." "What kind of government work?" Maya was quiet, for so long that Jake thought she might not answer. Finally, she spoke in a voice so soft he had to lean closer to hear her. "My family has a saying. Rodriguez women do not back down from bullies. My grandfather used to tell me that, but I never really understood what he meant until now." "What did he mean?" Maya closed her eyes. "He meant that sometimes you have to show people who you really are." Maya returned to classes the next day feeling different. The healing machines had fixed her injuries, but something inside her had changed. She walked through the corridors with her shoulders straight and her head up. When other students looked at her with pity, she looked back at them calmly. Jake noticed the change right away. "You seem better today." "I am better," Maya said. "I did some thinking in the medical bay." She did not tell him about the message she had sent to Earth the night before. It was a short coded message to her Uncle Carlos in Colorado Springs. She had used words that would mean nothing to anyone else, but her family would understand exactly what she was asking for. The reply had come back within 6 hours. Just 3 words, but they meant everything to Maya. "Permission granted, mija." Maya had smiled for the first time in weeks when she read those words. Her uncle still called her mija, the Spanish word for daughter, even though she was his niece. He had helped raise her after her father died, and he understood her better than anyone. For the next few days, Maya went about her normal routine. She attended classes, studied in the library, and ate her meals in the dining hall. But she was also doing other things. She spent hours in the station's computer system, accessing files about Coraxian anatomy and biology. She studied their bone, structure, muscle groups, and weak points. She also sent requests back to Earth for specific information, technical manuals that most people would find boring, but Maya read every word carefully. She was preparing for something, though she did not tell anyone what it was. Thrakvos seemed to sense that something had changed. He still blocked her path and knocked things out of her hands, but Maya's reaction was different now. Instead of looking scared or angry, she just looked at him with calm, measuring eyes. It was like she was studying him. This seemed to make Thrakvos even more aggressive. On Tuesday morning, Maya found her door had been marked with Coraxian symbols that translated to words she could not repeat. On Wednesday, her clean clothes were dumped on the floor and stepped on. On Thursday, someone had put a foul-smelling liquid in her water bottle. Jake was getting more worried every day. "This is getting dangerous, Maya. You need to report him now." Maya just shook her head. "Not yet." "What are you waiting for?" Maya looked at her friend with those same calm, measuring eyes. The right moment. Friday brought the cultural exchange presentations. Each species was supposed to share something important about their homeworld with the rest of the academy. Maya had signed up to present on behalf of the human students. The presentations were held in the main auditorium, a huge room that could hold over 1,000 beings. Students and teachers from every species on the station came to watch. Maya sat with the other human students in the front row, waiting for her turn. The first presentations were beautiful and peaceful. The Alterian students, including Zara, showed how they grew crystal gardens that sang in harmony. The Valerian students demonstrated their ability to create complex mathematics with just their minds. The tree-like Gravorians shared seeds that grew into small forests in minutes. Then it was time for the Coraxian presentation. Thrakvos stood up with two other Coraxian students, Drekmolt and Zen Kreese. All three were massive, armored, and dangerous-looking. The audience became very quiet as they walked to the center of the stage. "We are Coraxians," Thrakvos announced in his grinding voice. "We come from a world where only the strong survive. We do not make art or music or pretty gardens. We make bah." The three Coraxians began a demonstration of their fighting techniques. They moved with surprising speed for such large beings, their claws flashing as they showed how they would tear apart enemies. The mock battle was impressive and terrifying. "This is what real strength looks like," Thrakvos said when they finished. "This is why Coraxians are respected throughout the galaxy. We do not hide behind technology or tricks. We use the weapons we were born with." The audience clapped politely, but Maya could tell that many of them were uncomfortable. The Coraxian presentation had been more like a threat than a cultural sharing. Professor Vel 9, the elderly insectoid dean, took the stage. "Thank you for that energetic presentation. Now we will hear from our human students." Maya stood up and walked to the center of the stage. After the Coraxian display of size and strength, she looked tiny and fragile under the bright lights. Many in the audience felt sorry for her, expecting another weak human to embarrass herself. "My name is Maya Rodriguez," she began in a clear, strong voice. "I am here to talk about human martial arts." Thrakvos made a sound of disgust from where he sat with the other Coraxian students. "Human fighting? This should be amusing." Maya ignored him and continued. "On Earth, humans have been fighting for thousands of years. We have no natural armor, no claws, no poison, no built-in weapons. So we had to learn to fight differently." She moved to the center of the stage where everyone could see her clearly. "Humans learned that size and strength do not always win fights. We learned that technique, speed, and intelligence could beat raw power." Thrakvos stood up in the audience. "Impossible. The strong always defeat the weak. That is the law of nature." Maya looked directly at him. "Would you like to test that theory?" The auditorium became completely silent. Even the air recycling system seemed to stop humming. 1,000 beings held their breath as the small human girl stared up at the massive Coraxian warrior. Professor Vel 9 quickly moved between them. "Students, There will be no fighting in the auditorium. Academy. Regulations strictly forbid combat between different species. But Thrakvos was not finished. The challenge in Maya's voice had hit something deep in his warrior pride. He could not back down now, not in front of the entire academy. "I do not need to fight this weak creature," he said loudly. "Just looking at her proves my point. Humans are prey animals. They run and hide when real predators appear." He began walking down the aisle toward the stage, his two friends following behind him. Other students pressed themselves back in their seats to get out of the way. "Look at her," Thrakvos continued as he got closer to Maya. "Tiny, soft, defenseless. On my world, something like this would be eaten within hours." Maya did not move as the three Caraxians surrounded her on the stage. Thrakvos towered over her, his red eyes glowing with anger and contempt. "You want to show us human fighting?" he hissed, extending his claws. "Show us how humans run away when faced with real danger." Maya looked up at him calmly. "I am not running anywhere." Thrakvos began making threatening displays, pounding his armored chest and extending his claws to their full length. His friends joined in, creating a circle of snarling, dangerous aliens around the small human girl. The audience watched in horror, certain they were about to see Maya torn apart. Some of the teachers were moving toward the stage, but they were too far away to help. But Maya did not look scared. She did not try to run or call for help. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device that looked like a communicator. "Professor Kethzar," she said, speaking into the device. "I am formally requesting use of the combat simulation chamber for an educational demonstration." Professor Kethzar was a member of a warrior species that looked like armored lizards. He was in charge of combat theory classes and had the authority to approve fights between students under controlled conditions. His voice came back through the chamber's speaker system. "For what purpose, Student Rodriguez?" Maya never took her eyes off Thrakvos. "To demonstrate human martial arts techniques against a volunteer opponent." Thrakvos realized he was being trapped by his own aggressive behavior. If he backed down now, he would look like a coward in front of everyone. But if he accepted, he would be agreeing to fight a being less than half his size. "I accept," he growled before he could think about it more carefully. Professor Kethzar's voice filled the auditorium. "Very well. Combat Simulation Chamber 7 is authorized for educational demonstration. Safety protocols will be active. All interested parties may observe." Maya nodded and walked off the stage toward the exit. As she passed Jake in the audience, she stopped for just a moment. "What are you doing?" he whispered urgently. Maya smiled at him, and for the first time, Jake saw something in her eyes that he had never noticed before. Something dangerous. I'm going to show everyone what humans are really capable of," she said quietly. "And Jake, you might want to record this. My uncle is going to want to see it." As Maya walked out of the auditorium, followed by hundreds of curious beings, she felt a weight lifting off her shoulders. She had been hiding who she really was for too long. It was time to stop pretending to be helpless. It was time to show them all that Rodriguez women do not back down from bullies no matter how big they are, or what planet they come from. The fight that would change how the entire galaxy viewed humanity was about to begin. The next morning, Maya walked into the dining hall wearing clothes that Jake had never seen before. Instead of her usual loose academy uniform, she wore a tight black outfit that looked like it was designed for movement. Her hair was pulled back, severely, and something about the way she carried herself was completely different. She looked focused, dangerous. Jake caught up with her as she picked up her breakfast tray. "Maya, what are you wearing?" "Something more appropriate for today," she said calmly. "You do not have to do this," Jake said urgently. "Everyone knows Thrakvos is bigger and stronger. No one will think less of you if you back out." Maya looked at him with those same measuring eyes she had been using on Thrakvos. "Jake, what do you know about my family?" The question caught him off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean exactly what I said. What do you know about my family back on Earth?" Jake thought about it. "Not much, I guess. You said your father worked for the government and your mother was a nurse. Your grandfather told you stories about bullies." Maya nodded slowly. That is all true, but it is not the whole truth. She led him to an empty table in the corner of the dining hall where they could talk quietly. Around them, alien students were discussing the upcoming demonstration. Word had spread quickly through the station, and everyone seemed to have an opinion about what would happen. My grandfather was not just someone who dealt with bullies, Maya said. He was Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Rodriguez, United States Marine Corps. He served in 3 wars and earned more medals than I can count. He did not just tell me stories about fighting bullies. He taught me how to fight them. Jake stared at her. You mean he taught you actual fighting? Every day from the time I was 4 years old until I left for the academy, Maya said. Hand-to-hand combat, weapons training, tactical thinking. My whole family is military. My father was Army Special Forces before he died. My uncle Carlos trains Navy SEALs in advanced combat techniques. Maya took a sip of her juice and continued. My mother might be a nurse, but she also served as a combat medic in Afghanistan. My cousin Elena is a Marine sniper. My brother Tony is training to be an Army Ranger. Fighting is not just what my family does for work. It is who we are. Jake felt like he was seeing Maya for the first time. Why did you never tell anyone this? Because I came here to learn and make friends, not to fight, Maya said. I wanted to represent the peaceful side of humanity. But some people only understand one kind of language. She looked across the dining hall to where Thrakvos sat with his Coraxian friends. The massive alien was eating huge portions of raw meat and bragging loudly about what he was going to do to the human in the combat chamber. Besides, Maya added, humans have learned that it is better to be underestimated. Let your enemies think you are weak. Let them get overconfident. Then, show them what you are really capable of. An hour later, Maya stood in the preparation room next to Combat Simulation Chamber 7. Through the thick windows, she could see hundreds of beings gathering to watch the demonstration. Word had spread beyond the academy. Even adult aliens from other parts of the station were coming to see the fight. Professor Kethzar entered the room carrying a tablet with information about the combat protocols. He was a lizard-like being covered in natural armor, and he had fought in real wars before becoming a teacher. Student Rodriguez, he said in his deep, careful voice. I must ask you again if you wish to proceed with this demonstration. Thrakvos is one of the largest and strongest Coraxians I have ever seen. There is no shame in withdrawing. Maya was stretching her muscles, moving through warm-up exercises that Professor Kethzar recognized as military training routines. She moved with the fluid precision of someone who had been practicing combat techniques for years. Professor, Maya said without stopping her exercises, may I ask you a question? Of course. In your experience, what is the most dangerous type of opponent? Professor Kethzar thought about the question. I suppose it would be someone who is large, strong, and experienced in combat. Maya finished her stretching and looked at him directly. Respectfully, Professor, you are wrong. The most dangerous opponent is someone who looks harmless but is not. Someone who lets you think you have already won before the fight even starts. She walked toward the door that led to the combat chamber. Thrakvos has been telling everyone for weeks that humans are weak prey animals. He believes it completely. That belief is going to cost him. Professor Kethzar watched her go, feeling something he had not experienced in years. Despite all his combat experience, Maya Rodriguez made him nervous. There was something about the way she moved, the way she spoke, that reminded him of the most dangerous warriors he had ever met. In the combat chamber, hundreds of beings pressed against the viewing windows. The chamber itself was large and empty, with soft mats covering the floor and walls. Medical scanners would monitor both fighters and stop the match if anyone was seriously hurt. Thrakvos entered first, and the crowd made sounds of awe and fear. Even among Coraxians, he was exceptionally large. His natural armor gleamed under the lights, and his claws looked sharp enough to cut through metal. He moved to the center of the chamber and began making threatening displays for the audience. Then Maya entered, and the contrast was shocking. She looked like a child standing next to a giant. Some of the watching aliens felt sick, certain they were about to see something terrible happen. But Jake, watching from the front row, noticed something that others missed. Maya was not looking at Thrakvos like he was a threat. She was looking at him like he was a problem to be solved. Professor Kethzar's voice came over the speaker system. This is an educational demonstration of human martial arts techniques. The chamber's safety systems are active. Fighters, take your positions. Maya walked calmly to her side of the chamber. Thrakvos stomped to his position, still making aggressive displays and threatening sounds. Begin demonstration, Professor Kethzar announced. Thrakvos immediately charged forward, just as Maya had expected him to. He was fast for something so large, but he was also predictable. Maya had studied videos of Caraxian fighting techniques for days. She knew exactly what he would do. At the last possible second, Maya stepped forward instead of backward. This confused Thrakvos, who expected her to try to run away. She dropped low, grabbed his front leg, and used his own momentum to throw him over her shoulder in a perfect hip toss. The massive Caraxian crashed into the mat with enough force to shake the entire chamber. The watching crowd gasped in shock. No one had expected the small human to survive the first attack, let alone throw the giant alien across the room. Thrakvos rolled to his feet, angry and embarrassed. He charged again, this time swinging his claws in wide, powerful arcs that could have torn Maya in half. But Maya was not where his claws were aimed. She flowed around his attacks like water, never in the same place twice. When he swung high, she was low. When he lunged left, she was already moving right. Impossible, someone in the crowd whispered. How is she so fast? Maya had trained her entire life for moments like this. Every morning run in the mountains of Arizona, every sparring session with her uncle, every hour spent learning how to fight opponents bigger and stronger than herself. It was all preparing her for this. She waited for the perfect opening, then struck. Her fist hit a nerve cluster on Thrakvos's arm that she had memorized from the anatomy files. The giant alien's left arm went completely numb, and his claws retracted involuntarily. The crowd was silent now, watching something they had never seen before. A human, the species everyone thought was weak and defenseless, was systematically dismantling a Caraxian warrior. Maya moved behind Thrakvos faster than he could turn and jumped onto his back. Her arms wrapped around his thick neck in a chokehold that cut off blood flow to his brain. Thrakvos tried to reach back and grab her, but she positioned herself where his claws could not reach. On Earth, Maya said loudly enough for everyone to hear, we have a saying, it is not the size of the dog in the fight, it is the size of the fight in the dog. Thrakvos struggled desperately, but Maya's technique was perfect. Within seconds, the massive warrior began to weaken as his brain was deprived of oxygen. Humans might look small and weak, Maya continued, but we did not become the dominant species on our planet by accident. We survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and wars that would have destroyed most species. We did it with our minds, our tools, and our refusal to give up. Thrakvos's struggles became weaker. He was losing consciousness fast. We learned long ago that size and strength mean nothing if you cannot use them effectively, Maya said. And we learned that the most dangerous opponent is the one who does not look dangerous at all. Thrakvos finally tapped the mat with his free hand, the universal signal of surrender. Maya immediately released the chokehold and stepped back as the big alien collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. The combat chamber was completely silent. Hundreds of beings stared in shock at what they had just witnessed. The small, weak human had defeated one of the most feared warriors in the academy. Maya stood in the center of the chamber, not even breathing hard. She looked up at the viewing windows where her fellow students watched with new understanding in their eyes. Any questions? About human martial arts? She asked calmly. The silence in the combat chamber lasted for almost 30 seconds. Then someone in the crowd began to clap. Soon the entire viewing area erupted in cheers, whistles, and alien sounds of approval. Maya had just done something that no one thought was possible. Maya walked over to where Thrakvos was still kneeling on the mat, catching his breath. She held out her hand to help him stand up. The massive Caraxian looked at her hand for a moment, then at her face. For the first time since Maya had met him, Thrakvos looked uncertain. You fought well, Maya said simply. Thank you for the demonstration. Thrakvos slowly reached out and took her hand. Maya pulled him to his feet, which surprised him even more. Despite being less than half his size, she was strong enough to help lift his massive frame. "I do not understand," Thrakvos said in his grinding voice. "How did you learn to fight like that?" "Practice," Maya said. "Lots and lots of practice." "Professor." Kethzar entered the combat chamber to check on both students. He ran his scanners over Maya first, then Thrakvos. Both were healthy, though the Caraxian would have a sore throat for a few days. "Remarkable demonstration," Professor Kethzar said to Maya. "Where did you learn those techniques?" "My family taught me," Maya replied. "On Earth we call it military, combatives. It is designed specifically for fighting opponents who are bigger and stronger than you are." Professor Kethzar's eyes glowed with interest. "Your family are warriors?" "My family are soldiers," Maya corrected. "There is a difference. Warriors fight for honor and glory. Soldiers fight to win and come home safely." As they left the combat chamber, Maya found herself surrounded by alien students who wanted to talk to her. Species that had barely acknowledged. Humans before were now asking questions about Earth fighting techniques. Some wanted to know if they could learn these skills. Others just wanted to touch her arm to see if she was really as small as she looked. Jake pushed through the crowd to reach her. "Maya, that was incredible. Why did you never tell me you could do that?" Maya smiled at her friend. "Because I hoped I would never have to do it. I came here to learn about other cultures, not to fight." "But you were amazing. You made it look so easy." Maya's expression became more serious. "It was not easy, Jake. I have been training for this my whole life. What you saw took thousands of hours of practice, study, and preparation, and it only worked because Thrakvos underestimated me completely." Zara appeared beside them, her crystal body glowing brighter than usual. "Maya, I recorded the entire fight. Would you like me to send a copy to your family on Earth?" Maya's face lit up with the first genuine smile Jake had seen from her in weeks. "Yes, please. Send it to my Uncle Carlos. He is going to be very proud." Word of the fight spread through the station faster than Maya expected. By evening, she was getting messages from beings she had never met. Some were congratulations. Others were challenges from warriors of different species who wanted to test their skills against the human who had defeated a Caraxian. Maya politely declined all the challenge requests. She had proven her point. Fighting more opponents would just turn her into exactly the kind of bully she had been trying to stop. The real change came in how the other students treated her. Aliens who had ignored humans before now spoke to them with respect. Students who had been afraid to sit near, humans in the dining hall now competed for seats at their table. Maya found herself answering dozens of questions about Earth and human culture every day. But the biggest change was in Thrakvos himself. 3 days after their fight, Maya was studying in the library when the massive Caraxian approached her table. She tensed for a moment, old habits making her ready for trouble. "May I sit with you?" Thrakvos asked quietly. Maya looked up from her tablet. The other students in the library had gone silent, watching to see what would happen. Maya gestured to the chair across from her. Thrakvos sat down carefully, his armor making scraping sounds against the chair. He was quiet for a long moment before he spoke. "I owe you an apology," he said. "My behavior toward you was wrong. I was taught that strength was the only thing that mattered, but you showed me that I was wrong." Maya set down her tablet. "Apology. Accepted. We all make mistakes." "I want to understand," Thrakvos continued. "How did humans become so skilled at fighting without natural weapons?" Maya thought about how to explain it. "On Earth, humans were not the biggest or strongest creatures. We had to survive against animals with claws, teeth, poison, and armor. So we learned to use tools, work together, and think our way out of problems. But your fighting techniques were developed over thousands of years of warfare," Maya finished. "Humans have been fighting each other almost as long as we have existed. We got very good at it because we had to." Thrakvos was quiet again. "On my world, the strong rule over the weak. It has always been that way." "And how is that working out?" Maya asked. "Are your people happy?" Are they safe? Do they live good lives? The question seemed to disturb Thrakvos. I had never thought about it that way. Maya leaned forward. Strength is important, but it is not the only important thing. Intelligence, compassion, cooperation, creativity, these things matter too. The strongest person in the room is not always the best leader. Over the following weeks, Maya found herself in an unexpected role. She became an unofficial ambassador for humanity, explaining Earth culture to curious aliens. She also found herself helping to settle disputes between students, using her newfound reputation to encourage peaceful solutions. Professor Kethzar asked her to assist with combat theory classes, demonstrating human techniques to students from other species. Maya agreed, but she always emphasized that fighting should be the last resort, not the first. The best fight, she told her classes, is the one you avoid completely. Jake noticed that Maya seemed more relaxed and confident than she had been since arriving at the station. You seem different, he told her one evening as they walked through the observation deck. I feel different, Maya admitted. I spent so much time trying to hide who I was that I forgot why I was proud of it. What do you mean? Maya stopped walking and looked out at the stars. My family has served in the military for 5 generations. We fight so that other people do not have to. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. I was so worried about seeming peaceful that I forgot that sometimes peace has to be defended. Do you think you will stay in the program? Maya smiled. Yes, I think I will. There is still a lot to learn here, and apparently a lot to teach as well. A month later, Maya received a message that surprised her. It was from the Galactic Defense Force, the organization responsible for keeping peace between different species and worlds. Student Rodriguez, the message read, we have reviewed the recordings of your combat demonstration. We are impressed by your skills and your restraint. We would like to offer you a position as a combat instructor when you complete your studies. Humanity has much to teach the galaxy about effective peacekeeping. Maya showed the message to Jake and Zara. Both were excited, but Maya seemed thoughtful. Are you going to accept? Zara asked. I am thinking about it, Maya said. But first I want to finish what I came here to do. I want to learn everything I can about the different species in the galaxy. Understanding is just as important as fighting. Ability. Maybe more important, Jake added. Maya nodded. My grandfather always said that the best warriors are the ones who know when not to fight. I think he would be proud of what happened here. Later that evening, Maya sat in her room writing a message to her Uncle Carlos. She told him about the fight, about Thrakvos's apology, and about the job offer from the Galactic Defense Force. You taught me that Rodriguez women do not back down from bullies, she wrote. But you also taught me that the goal is not to defeat your enemies. The goal is to turn them into friends. Mission accomplished, Uncle Carlos, mission accomplished. As she sent the message, Maya looked out her window at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, along with her family and everything she had known before coming to the academy. But she was no longer the same person who had arrived on the transport ship months ago. She was still Maya Rodriguez from Arizona. She was still proud to be human. But now she was also something more. She was proof that humans belonged among the stars, and that sometimes the most dangerous opponents are the ones who do not look dangerous at all. The galaxy was a big place, full of different species with different ideas about strength and weakness. Maya looked forward to meeting them all, and showing them what humans were really capable of when they stopped pretending to be something they were not. After all, Rodriguez women do not back down from bullies, no matter how big they are or what planet they come from.